Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte, and although we usually... What? My voice! Although we usually run all around Western Mass...
Today we're running all around one specific place.
And that place is Greylock Works in North Adams, where one converted mill is bringing folks to the northern Berkshires to live, create, and commute.
So later in the show, we'll hear from some of the people doing just that. Artists, brewers, chefs, and teachers.
But first, we'll start with one half of the team with the vision.
We're just off Route 2 in North Adams at Greylock Works with one of the co-founders, Sal Perry. This is a beautiful space. We just saw a bunch of businesses, like a little mini marketplace indoors, but we're walking where right now?
We are heading around the campus in our beautifully landscaped parking lot, and we're going to go in through the lofts at Greylock Works.
Talk to us about these tiles on the parking lot.
It's like a Tetris parking lot with a bunch of L shapes.
It is a permeable paving system, so underneath the concrete pavers there's 24 inches of gravel, and it acts as a stormwater retention system. No floods and no discharge to the city municipal system.
So it doesn't create weird potholes and stuff like that either?
Not at all.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Jeez, we should all... I'm sure it wouldn't be cheap to switch over to all this, but...
But maybe it's worth it. Sometimes you gotta pay a lot up front.
We're heading to the lofts. Does that mean that this is a place where people live?
Yes, we just started occupying the residential component last December, and we're finishing the first phase, which is 24 loft apartments. They're structured as condominiums, so we're selling some and we're renting some.
Was it always intended to be a mix of residential and commercial space?
Yes, from the outset, 10 years ago when we started, we imagined it as a mixed-use campus. And we started with events, and then we continued with commercial tenancies, including building out a restaurant, a co-work community, cidery, distillery, yoga. So it's a really...
Many of whom we're going to introduce you to in a little bit.
Yeah. Great people.
So what appealed about industrial design to you in the first place?
We think of it as adaptive reuse. One of the most sustainable things we can do as designers is put old buildings back into a new purpose. Think about the embodied energy in a building like this, the thousands of bricks, the heavy timber that could not even be replaced if we tried. We felt like quality of the space that these raw materials defined was just majestic.
Did you build the baseball field too?
If you build it, he will come.
Fortunately, that was here. They're good neighbors.
They're also psyched that your parking lot isn't dumping water into their property, I'm sure.
Yes.
Sal, tell us about the vision at the beginning.
So my partner, Carla Rothstein, and I were driving through the area for the very first time. We'd never been to the Berkshires.
Where were you coming from?
New York City.
Heard of it.
We'd been developing and designing projects in New York for 25 years, and we were on our way up to see the Clark Art Institute had just completed their expansion designed by Tadao Ando. And from there, heading over to North Adams, we passed by the property, and Carla said, turn around. Let's go check out what's happening there, because it's just this vacant, enormous property. As good architects, we trespassed on the property. From there, we reached out to the broker. We're going to go up in here.
Heading into the lofts at Greylock Works.
It's funny because as New Yorkers, we thought this was an incredible find. We've got to act on this right away. And actually came back the next day with the broker to get access and do a tour.
Wasn't as hot a commodity as you had anticipated.
Right. It had been on the market for over a year.
Smells like new in here.
Yeah, so we're in the lobby now. This is a double height space with a beautiful custom steel staircase. This is one of the joys of working in this area, is that there are a lot of talented builders, in particular excellent steel workers, and they have a lot of space to play. So they have these big warehouses where they can do the fabrications that we want done, and we can work hand in hand with them. We're the developers, the architects, the general contractors. We have our own on-site full-time crew of builders here. So we wear a lot of hats in this project.
Did you move up officially from New York City? Like, you out of New York and into North Adams, or are you keeping a foot in both places?
We have a foot in both places.
What was this building before? Like, what's the history of this building?
Yeah, originally this was cotton spinning. So hundreds of jobs, hundreds of looms. The building is built like a tank. It's heavy timber and steel construction. The floorboards are structural planks that are 4 inches thick.
And that was all here.
That was all here.
Nice.
So
Good
that
bones.
was, yeah. So as architects and builders, it was like, why isn't anyone doing anything with this?
I think maybe it's the sheer size of it that's a little intimidating to folks around.
Yeah. Let's keep going on our tour.
Yeah, let's go up the stairs. These on the wall are reclaimed and repurposed window sashes that we took out of the existing window openings and refurbished and backlit, and they create a unique ambiance in the corridors. One thing about all of the common areas is that there's always daylight. It's not like you're walking down this cavernous hallway. And at the end, you can look forward to a sauna.
Whoa.
And at the opposite end in the west, it's the sunset overlook.
Very nice. Has anybody moved in yet?
Yeah, this unit is sold.
Let's go knock on the door. No, I'm just kidding.
That unit is sold. The one across the hall is sold. The one above us is sold. So yeah, we're making good progress.
Yeah, nice. It's got a door to the outside. The terrace isn't quite built yet, but you can go out on the roof there.
We've been working on the project for 10 years, and we've seen a lot of people moving to the area. When you go over back to the commercial side, we have basically 30 tenants right now between our co-work areas, our culinary lab, the restaurant, yoga. And we're seeing a lot of people move here from California. We're seeing people move up from New York City, from Boston. It was accelerated during COVID, but people felt like this is actually a good place to call home, so they're staying.
We've got the commercial space, we've got these lofts, condos, and some rentals. You've got an event space, which has kind of kicked it all off here at Greylock Works. What else is in the cards that you, Sal Perry, are wanting to bring here to North Adams?
We have ambitions to build a climbing gym. So if anyone's listening out there who would like to build a climbing gym with us.
You do have the vertical height for it.
Yeah. If you build an American Ninja Warrior gym, my 11-year-old will want to come here every day.
American Ninja Warrior.
Fantastic. So we're right on the Appalachian Trail, so you have such a connection to nature and that level of recreation. And then we have these huge 20,000 square foot open Butler buildings, which have 30-foot tall roofs. They're ideal for looking out to the mountains and getting exercise within them.
What is a Butler
That
building?
was going to be my question.
Yeah, if you look out and you see the metal roof,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of like Kleenex. Butler was the trade name for a particular type of metal construction.
I see. It
And-
doesn't mean butlers lived there.
Carson the Butler speaking.
No, it has nothing to do with butlers.
Very different Kleenex than we're used to.
Right.
Yeah, so after cotton spinning, it became a mixture of industrial uses, including aluminum processing. So they used the big open spaces to process aluminum.
How did this building previously, if you know the history, interact with some of the other factories that were around here? So like Sprague Electric is what is now Mass Mocha. This was just an industrial town. How did they play with each other?
Yeah, that's fascinating to look at the history because you have a whole ecosystem of production happening in the late 1800s, early 1900s, built around the textile industry. And it wasn't just about the looms and the actual making of cotton, but all of the backup that happens, like the making of the looms themselves and the forge that they used to be able to build all of the equipment, the dyeing that happened in some of the mills. And I think in many ways what's happening today in this area is a reinvention of that ecosystem with creative culture. So we have Mass Mocha as a fantastic example of that. We were drawn to the fact that we could see such a density of culture between the Clark Art Institute, Mass Mocha, the educational components of MCLA and Williams College. There was already such a depth of anchor institutions around culture and education.
Besides the sheer volume of space that you have here, what's different about the ways you get to play with space here as opposed to in the city?
For us, it's about scale. We're a small design firm, which has a development component to what we do. My partner, Carl, is also an academic, so she's been teaching at Columbia in their design program for 30 years. So for us to be able to develop properties in New York City with the level of capital we had to allocate, we were very limited. Here, we were comparing building out a 20 by 70 square foot lot in Brooklyn compared to a 9-acre, 240,000 square foot property in the Berkshires. Literally a trade-off.
Wow.
And it's also the impact that we felt we could have in a positive way in this region. It's very much kind of an underdog. North Adams is seen as something that everyone wants to succeed. If you know the history of it, you want to see it develop. And we felt like this property is in many ways a bridge between Williamstown and North Adams, quite literally. It's at the direct center between the two downtowns along State Road. So we felt like it would be a great way to really be a nexus of the culture.
When we walked around the building, you have a giant sign that says that it is supported by grants from President Biden's infrastructure bill.
Who is that now?
This is a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, it does say the bipartisan infrastructure bill,
Yes.
which is, notable. When we did come upon the property, it was already designated as a brownfield site. One of the ways we've been able to do so many improvements to the campus was to apply for grants that would support cleaning up a blighted condition, particularly along public ball fields where a lot of children are playing. Berkshire Regional Planning Commission is a critical part of how this project has been successful in that regard because they act as a conduit for federal and state funds. There is a robust history and support structure that flows to mill redevelopment in general, and New England has a great precedent for that. Our project was recognized as a case study in the New England Summit for brownfields. So they asked us to come and present how we do what we're doing. Being part of that support structure is putting a sign up on your building.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
We also had a focus from the beginning of celebrating local food and understanding what's grown here, and we're in the process of standing up a nonprofit called the Gastronomy Lab at Greylock Works.
What would that entail?
There is great performing arts, there is amazing fine art, there's modern art, but there isn't really a celebration of the culinary arts right in this area. There are some great chefs doing things, but there isn't an organization really putting a spotlight on the fantastic things that are grown here. And I think that the Gastronomy Lab has the potential to also be a hub of innovation around food. So we're treating it as an education program that would have an edible gardens component. There will be a retreat where up to 5 people would come and really immerse themselves in a particular focus. Maybe it's fermentation, maybe it's other things. And then they would work together to develop an innovative product or an innovative idea. And then that would be displayed in our retail market. And then we'd have hopefully a discussion series where it engages with the public. So we're in the Let's Start the Capital campaign phase right now. We have donated a building on our campus to the program, and we have already about $2 million of grant funding that is going to build that space out. So it's happening. With some support from USDA, about 8 years ago, we built out a culinary lab. And we use it as a launch pad for new ideas around small business creation in food. And 2 amazing pastry chefs started in the first iteration of the restaurant we opened here. They were providing desserts and also doing some of the cooking in that restaurant. And they expressed a desire to launch a business of their own. So they're from the area. They went to high school together. They grew up together. And we connected them with a food consultant that we knew. And they worked on a business plan together. And they were able to use our commercial kitchen as a place to start. And they've built an amazing roster of wholesale clients, and they're doing really well.
And they're still working out of this commercial kitchen?
They work out of that kitchen 6 days a week. It dovetails well with the events that we do because we do a lot of weddings, and they do pastries for the weddings. They've built a great reputation of their own, so they also are sought after by some of the best event producers in the area, so they're doing great. Within 5 months of closing on the property in 2015, we hosted a phenomenal New Year's Eve party in our event space because it was critical for us to send a signal to the community at the outset that we're going to make things happen. We're not going to start a planning process that's going to take 10 years. We're going to start building and bringing people together. And from that, we got to know the community. We got to know who was interested in being part of this and who's passionate about food and who needs a place to be in, a co-work community. And I think it's been a very, let's try this and see how it goes attitude. Whereas I think in New York, our experience is that you have to have everything nailed down and hit the go button and then sprint to the finish line because the cost of every step is so critical. Here, we were able to secure the property for a relatively small amount and then do planning, try something out. Be responsive, do some more planning, try something out, be responsive. And in many ways, I think this is a beautiful tour that you're doing because you're gonna see the people that we respond to, right? Like the community that we're pulling together here are in many ways, they have a voice in the process. They inform the culture that's growing here.
Well, Sal Perry, one of the co-founders of Greylock Works. Let's go meet some of those people.
Yeah, super, that's fun.
Now that we've seen how people can live at Greylock Works,
It's time to head back down to the ground floor to see how they're thriving.
by first invading the art studio of painter and consultant Julia Dixon.
Then exploring the brews of Berkshire Cider Project with Matt Brogan and Kat Hand.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, homegrown in Hatfield, Massachusetts, and providing energy savings for their customers for over 10 years. Learn more at northeast-solar.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy. Admissions now open for graduate programs in 2025. Learn how to become a changemaker at umass.edu/SPP.
Now I'm cracking the whip.
Oh, so we're on.
Let's focus. We're on you. Let's go.
Okay, come
I'm
on.
leaving that in.
Oh, look at Tony doing his job.
We are at Greylock Works, and we are seeing some of the loft space and talked with one of the co-founders, but this is also a marketplace and a co-work space, and we're in one of the studios in the co-work space. What's your name?
Julia Dixon.
Wait a minute. Are you the Julia Dixon that is a famous Berkshire artist?
Am I allowed to say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
We go to lots of places with somebody in particular, and they say, "Oh, you're married to Julia Dixon," and
Yeah.
that's you.
Yeah, that's me.
But the person we go with is our director, Tony Dunn.
It is indeed. So I'm going to bow out of this one.
We usually have to do full disclosures about like, oh, I'm on the Shea board, Khaleesi's on the Iron Horse board, but now the full disclosure is our director's wife.
Who hates our taste in pizza, and
Yes.
that's okay.
Yes, we're frenemies in that way. But we watched you reheat coffee in a microwave, so who's going to win this battle? Julia, tell us about what medium you work in as an artist here at Greylock Works.
Yeah, so I'm an oil painter. I love portraiture. I love still lives. Symbolism and portraiture is kind of my jam.
Do you work on your own things or commissions or both?
I'm doing a commission right now, sort of a memorial portrait, but I do paint my own stuff when I get the chance.
The thing that I think is interesting about your work, and I love, is your sense of death. You love dead things and skulls, and anytime anything macabre comes up in our orbit, Tony's always like, "Oh, my wife Julia would love this."
I'm into it.
Tell us about that as artistic inspiration.
I mean, I guess that's what the paintings I want to make are about. Death, absence, and presence, and...
But you incorporate a lot of skulls into it. Not in a Georgia O'Keeffe way where it's just a skull, but like I'm looking at this beautiful picture of a young woman holding a skull. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I processed that pig skull from a farmer.
Yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Next to a spine and a ram's head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a mini altar.
I mean, mortality has been a theme in art since the beginning of art.
Mm-hmm. So what is that, the oil painting of that young person with the pig skull? Tell me about it.
I want to make a series of 6-foot-tall paintings about death. So that one there is of my friend Michael. I would process chickens with him in the summers, and it is about intentional killing. And then I want to make
He's there holding a baby,
Yeah.
but with dead chickens behind him upside down that are getting ready to be...
the cone thing that drains their
Yes.
blood.
And then near the processing thing that gets the feathers all off them.
That's right. I want to drink that.
Director Tony Dunn has taken
away my
the
coffee.
microwaved coffee away from
And
Julia Dixon.
Look,
don't do
he's
that
so
to
happy
people.
to be doing his job because we usually don't let him do it.
So then I want to make another painting of when I was young. I was not impervious to death, but you just don't think about it.
Yeah.
So I want to make that 6-foot-tall stretched canvas there is going to be a friend of mine sitting and surrounded by decay. So she's sitting in front of like a rusting car, and I want to have mushrooms and lichen everywhere and flies. And I'm doing like a little sort of study of the same kind of thing of youth, ignorant of the passing of time and of mortality. My father died when I was 15, so I think that's probably why I'm not religious. I don't know if I am spiritual. I don't know. I have crystals and things. I'm figuring it out.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. So I guess that's where this comes from. Why are we here and what's the point? And it's so quick and trying to make sense of it. I think that's what art is about. It's about a person making sense of their world.
Julia Dixon here at Greylock Works, oil painter. You just did an artist retreat in Spain. Tell us what that was all about. It was called Quarantine.
It's called Quarantine.
To look back at the good old times.
It actually had nothing to do with COVID. So it was.
Did you have to do it on a lazaretto somewhere?
Yes.
Was it really?
Well, the island of Lazaretto.
Oh, I thought a lazaretto was a boat that was quarantined.
So I was on Menorca, which is an island in the Mediterranean, and every day we'd have to take a ferry to a quarantine island
That was
called Lazaretto
So
Island.
I didn't know where they got the name of those boats from.
Where ships would go. If people were sick, they would either die on Lazaretto or get nursed back to health. And the workers at Lazaretto were often convicts. So you could either go to prison or you could work with all these sick people
Roll
on a
the dice
quarantine
and see if you
island.
catch it. Wow, that's a good offer.
So the whole island is surrounded by these tall walls to keep people in.
Sounds like right up your alley with all
I
the...
was going to say, how did this resonate with your love of death?
A bird died. A bird died while I was holding it, while I was there. It was...
We need to give you the link to the UMass
And I-
Falcon Cam, because then you can see birds die all the time.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
took
God.
its skull. Like,
That's
I cleaned it off real quick, and I brought it home.
Oh, wow.
That's the drawing of
I'm
your
gonna
dead
paint
bird?
it, yeah.
Did you kill the bird?
Wow.
I did. It was dying. It was not...
put it out of its
was
misery.
dying.
Yeah.
I had to. Good. That's the second...
Tony, are you safe, Tony?
I ask myself that every day.
If you're not safe, blink 3 times.
So quarantine was all about... I'm not allowed to swear.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, because we'll just bleep it
The
out
only
later.
person that gets mad when we do it is your husband.
Quarantine is about, like, kicking your ass.
Oh, that's not a swear.
Yeah, we can see. We don't even need to bleep that one out.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's say it a bunch of times. Let's see Tony. Oh, God.
Oh dear.
They say it's not an art school. When you go to art school, you learn from very specific people and you learn how to, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to make art. You know, there are rules compositionally in terms of technique, and then you can break them. But quarantine is about breaking free of imposter syndrome, feeling like you should be doing things the way your teachers taught you or the way the market says things should be done. So that's what it was for me. And I've been a consultant for about 10 years, a creative economy consultant. But I'm 41. I have 2 degrees in painting. I graduated from college 20 years ago, and I've never been a professional painter ever in my whole life. I've always worked for other people. Always. I don't want to do that anymore. And I needed to go a quarter of the way around the world to like have somebody tell me to be my authentic self, to take ownership over myself and do what makes you happy.
But in order to do that, you've got to kill this bird with your bare hands.
I know.
So she did it, so I guess everything's accomplished.
I cried and cried and cried, but I mean, the beauty of life, if you don't have the beauty of death, then there is no beauty in life, I think. I don't believe that because I'm afraid to die. I don't want to. I don't know.
Was that different for you because you were witnessing the transition and part of the transition? Because, I mean, like, you've cleaned off pigs' heads and,
I
like,
know,
you've
it's
got
weird.
skulls everywhere. So was it different because you were in active observance of the process?
I think so. I just did nothing but think. I didn't really talk to anybody. I didn't meet. There were 60 people from around the world at quarantine. And I went there to, like, do the work. So I just took in. It wasn't about output. It was about intake. Somebody said they're the greatest gift you can give an artist is time. That's so true for any artist out there. For Christmas, for your birthday, just ask for support, resources, anything that can give you more time to, like, express yourself. Is this what you were trying to, is this good?
It's fun.
Yeah.
Is this the kind of content you're looking for from me? Can I have my coffee, please? Thanks.
It was the clinking.
Yeah, no, I want to work for me. I don't want to work for other people anymore. So I want to be here and paint, and you can talk to Tony about how he feels about that.
How do you feel about that? Tony Dunn, our director and spouse of Julia Dixon, painter.
Well, people listening wouldn't know, but if you want to know how I feel about it, you can look at the wall right there. It's something I gave Julia a little while ago.
A gift certificate good for painting, redeemable, 1 career as full-time artist. Includes bonus assorted house husband services.
That's me, house husband.
Yeah, it's also helpful to have people who believe in you. It doesn't necessarily have to be your family. A lot of families, when young people want to get into the arts, any kind of arts, like they, are given a hard time by their family, but you find your tribe that is willing and happy to support you and people who believe in you.
Tell us about the community at Greylock Works here, because this is a co-op space. There's a bunch of other artist spaces here.
I mean, for me, logistically, it's great. Great light, great height. Man, I'm 41. I'm not going to paint on my knees. I can't, it's like dangerous. So logistically, it's great. It comes with security. It comes with air conditioning. It comes with heat. I love the owners. And then the community also. It's nice to be in a lot of people make art from home. And I think art is both solitary and social. There are moments where you need to be social. There are moments where you need to be alone to be in the open mode and experiment and play and figure things out. So coming here every day gets me out of my house. It gets me interacting with the great people that are here. There are a couple of painters. There are some designers that are here. There's an architect, a floral designer who's also interested in death. You should talk to her. So yeah, it's just a great community of creative people who are like doing what they do, who are being their authentic selves, who are living their best life, who are being creative, making sense of their world. I love that. These are real artists making a living, and that's inspirational too in itself for somebody that's just starting a career at 41.
Well, thanks for showing us all of your stuff and all of your dead stuff and letting us borrow your husband so often.
I feel like we should also mention there is a lot of alive stuff, a lot of plants to go along with the plethora of skulls.
It's the circle of life, I've heard.
And it moves us all.
Yeah. Shall we go meet some of the other
Yes.
people that are having?
Do you want me to introduce you to somebody?
Yeah, walk us. We're at another one of the businesses that are part of this space, Greylock Works, off of Route 2 in North Adams, with a friend that we've had on the show several times now, but this is my first time getting to come out to see your place, although you went to go see them. Where was it at?
I went to the Shaker. I went to the Harvest Dinner.
Cat Hand at Berkshire Cider Project, and here we are finally here at Greylock Works with your cider project.
Thanks so much for joining us. Excited to have you guys.
Yeah, show us around.
So come on in. So we are getting ready to reopen. So again, you guys are not seeing it at the most aesthetic, but I promise on Saturday it'll be very cute. We've got our tasting room up front. We've got hard cider flights, cider by the bottle to go, local cheese, all kinds of good stuff.
And cured meats in the fridge at the front.
I saw that. What are in all these boxes right here?
So these are empty bottles at the moment. So a lot of what we're doing during the springtime, sort of January through right about now, is bottling a lot of our fall ferments. So we get all of our juice in, press juice in the fall, everything ferments over the winter, and right about now we're just starting to bottle some of those.
What is fermented? Tell us about what you got cooking, or what are they in these tanks right now?
What you got cooking? It shouldn't be cooking anymore.
Yeah, no cooking. Very cold.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good to see you, Matt.
Sorry, wet hands.
Oh,
dirty
no,
wet
good.
hands.
No worries.
So we've got all kinds of things. So we've got some of our dry cider and bittersweet that's all fermented up and kind of aging in these tanks over here. Yesterday, Matt just blended and filtered our sour quince cider, which is my personal favorite, so I'm very excited that it's coming back. And actually what's fun, when you're here, you can even see our champagne cider that's aging back here in these cages. So those are true champagne ciders.
What does that mean?
So we go through the whole champagne process, a big part of which is aging on the lees, so aging on kind of spent yeast. So they sit there hanging out, getting all those like nice bready, toasty characteristics of the yeast for between 6 months and 18, depending on how.
As long as we can stand it.
Yeah.
Do you have to riddle them and turn them like you do with champagne?
So we made a riddling rack out of old pallets in the back that we pull out, and it kind of looks like a happy little Christmas tree when we get it going, and that takes a whole nother month or two for it to settle. And then we used to disgorge in a chest freezer that we built ourselves. So the idea is you want to freeze the top chunk of all that spent yeast and then pop it out, and you have this beautiful clean champagne. We were able to get a grant last year to get an actual proper neck chiller. So that's really upped our game and made it quite a lot faster.
I'm going to come and use it when my neck is sore.
Our joke in the tasting room is, you buy a cider, you get the free tour, because you're basically in the space. It's truly a working little tasting room.
And all of the fermenting gets done here too?
All gets done here,
Yeah.
Yep. So everything you get in a bottle from us has probably been aging and blending for about a year, which is like a young white wine. That's how we treat cider. But what's neat about the way we make cider and this kind of seasonality is it's always something new. There's like a new idea. So if we get bored of what we've done last year, or I'm really sick of it or something, there's always someone calls and says, hey, I've got this tree, or I've got this kind of apple that you've never tasted or been able to use. And we say, okay, we're back in. We're excited again.
Matt Brogan and Cat Hand from Berkshire Cider Project here at Greylock Works. Talk about the community of Greylock Works and what it means to have your cidery right here on site with all these other businesses going on.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a big part of why we ended up here. So when we started in 2019, fall of 2019, this was kind of I like to say a hobby that got out of control.
Yeah. And fermenters later, we're still thinking about it.
Having never done this before, being able to start at Greylock Works where we didn't have to own our space, I don't have to clean the bathrooms, all kind of stuff like that. It's been a really great place for us to start. And then having, State and the restaurant next door, the distillery next door, it really does become this great community. We've worked with a lot of artists who have studios here or come through in different ways. So for us, it's been a great place to get started, just, low risk. And then there's been so many positives of just being in this community.
Just because you now have neighbors on either side of you now? Yep. Yeah. I have questions about expansion because, in capitalism, everybody just gets big. But with neighbors on either side, that kind of restricts where you can put things, like in storage. So what keeps you in this space at this size? Or is it just like, have you gotten to the point where this is what's comfortable, this is what you're capable of, and it's really just good to be here?
Having the constraint is good in some cases. We're
not
a
governor.
Yeah, we're not a cidery that is going to be in every grocery store across 48 states. And I think it's nice to know how much we can physically do ourselves and what is sort of appropriate or useful for the little county we're in. We're learning what to move off-site, what we don't need here. And I think we're learning some production we're hoping to move in the next few years, just because what we actually want is to invite more people in, have more tasting room space. We started with what was going to be just a folding table and you get some tasters. Now we have about 15 seats at the most, really, but people want more. That's what we want to expand on here, and then think about what production elements can go someplace else that don't need to be next door to each other or in a very public space like this.
Let your tasting rooms be tasting rooms.
Yeah, exactly. We used to do all the apple pressing here, believe it or not.
Oh, gee, in what space?
It's hard to describe. So that closet, which is our storage closet for all logical closet things, every fall we would empty it out, and that little AC going through the wall, which we cut, you kind of turn on, it can stay at 50, you kind of jerry-rig it a little bit, and then it was apple storage for 3 months out of the year. And we would press here, and then all that stuff that was in there, where did it go? Who knows? It was chaotic at best.
You said carboys, and I was expecting
I know.
Like literally you have carboys back here.
Yeah, there's always, I can't, still to this day, always a home brewer. If you even have 1 gallon, half a gallon, 5 gallons, you're gonna put it aside in a little thing and it will serve some purpose. Frankly, it always gets a little bit better, kind of hangs out there. We've got some dandelion wine there that we did one year, some quince. It's all the little experimental stuff. And plus people like to look at it.
They look cool. They look like the cider
cool.
that they all drink in the Fantastic
Exactly.
Mr. Fox.
This is some of the strongest, finest alcoholic cider money can buy.
Well, Matt and Kat, thanks for showing us your place, Berkshire Cider Project at Greylock Works.
Thanks for coming by.
If all our running about is making you feel a little cramped, our next stop at Greylock Works is for you as we check out Berkshire Yoga with Nicole Rizzo. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
So we're continuing to walk down the hallways of Greylock Works. We walked by a vintage clothing spot. We walked by the distillery at Greylock Works. There's a really interesting Berkshire Collective Creations, which is like old wooden rocking horses and stuff. But now it's time to get our namaste on.
I don't like that.
Greylock Yoga.
We don't say that anymore.
You don't say namaste anymore? Good.
No.
What do you say now?
Thank you.
What's your name?
I'm Nicole.
Thanks for having us here.
Thanks for coming. If you want to take your shoes off, that would be great. Yeah, welcome to the expansion space of Greylock Yoga and Movement.
Where was the original space of Greylock Yoga?
We were on the other side in a small 550 square foot little room, which was lovely, and we outgrew it pretty fast, and then we moved here at the beginning of February, doubled our size, and we can fit 30 people in this other space.
Beautiful light in here.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice ambiance. Tell us about your yoga journey.
My yoga journey stemmed from coming through anxiety, panic attacks, a little bit of grief work. It was more moving into a mindfulness practice, breath work to support my nervous system. And then, you get the yoga bug and just, it supported my body. A lot of, stress from years of dancing on my low back and linking breath and movement. So for me, it was just a natural progression having a dance background and then using it for my mental health and then into my physical health. That's my form of practice. And the next step was to get into a teacher training. So we've got about 8 teachers on the schedule. So we're yoga and movement. So we do yoga sculpts, we do bar classes, Pilates classes, dance classes to cultivate fun. Some of them are cardio dance. We have belly dancing. We have a heels class, bringing a little bit of sensuality. We don't wear heels, so.
Wait, how do you do a heels class with no heels?
Just
it's
a state of mind.
the whole time.
It's just a state of mind. Yeah, heels with a Z. Heels with a Z. Yeah. The studio, it's running on pure magic of the community, bringing it together. A lot of moms coming in, people who are working at the college, people who are coming into a yoga practice. We are therapeutic heat, so we work with infrared heaters. They temp between 86 and 96. Yep. So they're infrared, sauna-like penetrating bodies. They're great for range of motion, flexibility, immunity, inflammation. So that's a big piece of what our model is having the heat. Plus, we live in New England. It's freezing. So we've been welcoming the heat, which has been really, really nice. Well, we can go in there and I can turn them on. You want to see?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's already warm in here.
It's already warm. I had a class this morning.
Aha.
This room has much better reverb. How many classes are you generally teaching a day?
There is typically between 3 and 6 on the schedule. So I just pop them on. You'll start seeing they just kind of light up like a toaster oven. Yeah, and then you can feel them directly. Yeah, there's a lot of love that was brought into this space. And that's what I feel like it rides on, is that pure magic and love of the community. So everybody comes in, they know each other, they're friends. We're not that type of studio where you come in and just like do things like quick. I mean, we live in a small town, so that's what we really like to cater towards.
And most of the people that are coming from North Adams?
North Adams and Williamstown. Well, actually, we have a lot of people coming from Vermont too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's nice. As you can start to feel the heaters on you.
Yeah, it feels so good.
Yeah, good.
How have you seen Greylock Yoga fit into the rest of the stores that are kind of making up this ecosystem here at Greylock Works?
I think for us, like what they have cultivated through all the businesses and bringing in, the cider, bringing in, the makers, the artists who come through. We're all creative. I mean, we all as humans are creative beings. So to be a part of that fabric and to support each other, everyone is flourishing together. We're all growing together. We're moving from that growth mindset. So people who come in, it's like, oh, I'm coming in, I'm doing my yoga class. Oh, and then I'm going to go to State. I'm going to get some great food. I'm going to get a pastry. I'm going to get a coffee. Got the farm, 328 Farm. So I'm going to get some flowers. Like we're all meshed in that fabric together, which is really, really exciting. So I grew up in North Adams. I went to McCann, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of a small business owner here.
How has North Adams changed as somebody who grew up here to what's happening now? We've talked a little bit about the ebbs and flows of hope for what's going to happen for North Adams.
Yeah.
Where are you on that spectrum right now?
My grandmother grew up here. She grew up like working in the mill, right where the Eclipse Mill is, and I've seen her through generations go from like a blue collar town. And, a lot of people, when you're here, it's like people are invested in decades. Like, so even with politics, there was a mayor who was there for a very long time, and things that, there was a stillness, and there was, definitely a heartbeat of like when you're here and that pulse. But as like there was a growth mindset of, moving forward and growing, and then getting Mass Mocha in here, you started seeing how this town could evolve and the potential of bringing outside creative and innovative pieces and structures together. To see that evolve and change, sometimes like with all change, there's a little bit of resistance, exactly. I didn't want to say the word, but there is, like truth around that. But, change is just necessary. That's how we evolve and move forward in life. So, what I have truly seen is through all of those growing pains, which it truly has had, even with Mocha coming in, there's been, such a ebb and flow. North Adams just continues to stay open to it. Even if it takes a little bit longer, they're just open to change, they're open to receiving, and people are coming around. And I feel like the people who are coming in are really, really invested in being a part of the town. Investing in I'm going to be here for a while, and I want to make this happen, and I'm going to get on this council, I'm going to get on into this group, I want to help out the community, I want to help out with the school system. So I find that it takes a little while to have some moving parts happen and that growth, but it's definitely there. It's baby steps in North Adams, but what I've seen since I grew up here, since I was 5 to now, 35, 40 years later, it's huge. Let me turn off these lights for you so you don't overheat.
It is fun to slowly, but it's like the frog that's in the pot of boiling water. You don't feel it, and then all of a sudden, you're dead. Yeah.
Fun NEPM fact, Nicole worked at Burger King in high school with our very own Carrie Saldo.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, yes. Carrie and I go way back. Yeah, we were the drive-through queens. Yeah.
The drive-through queens of Burger King?
Oh yeah.
Why didn't Carrie call the show the Drive-Through Queens instead of the Rundown?
You'd have to ask John Sutton.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks for taking us through your studio.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we got studio art.
Check.
And we've centered ourselves.
Check.
And we've got a beverage.
Check.
What's left?
Food.
So next we'll head to the restaurant State. The name of the restaurant is State. To speak with raconteur Tu Lee about using flavor to span countries and oceans with tastes of home. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. Now we're at the place that I am most sad that it is closed because I saw the menu and I got really excited.
Close to us, but open to you.
Yes.
Next time you come here, thank you for having us here, Tu Lee.
Hi, how's it going?
If you have been listening to the show for a very long time, or if you'd like to go back and look, we spoke to you two because you had an installation right down the street at Mass Mocha of all this incredible flowers and such. Remind us about that exhibit.
That was a show with other BIPOC artists, and I worked with Kapwana Kawangi on a series called Flowers for Africa, and I had 5 pieces up with that. So that was quite interesting, and a lot has happened since then. So opening State is one of them, but my Vietnamese cafe downtown North Adams as well, which has been closed the last few months while renovations are happening, but we'll reopen that soon as the State Cafe, and that'll be Vietnamese and Southeast Asian focused only.
I love it, because when we spoke to you last, you were doing cooking, but it was pop-ups, right?
Pop-ups at Tourist, Tuesdays with 2 there. Now it's Tuesdays with 2 here.
Tell us about State, which is in here in Greylock Works, this cooperative workspace and art space and event space and multifaceted, incredible place right off of Route 2 in North Adams.
Fantastic restaurant.
And now a restaurant.
So State is a restaurant I opened with my husband and a business partner and one of my best friends, Aaron Willis. And this is our West Coast inspired restaurant. We met in the Pacific Northwest, all 3 of us. The vibe here, the font reminds us of like a California, 90s surf shop. Our menu is very West Coast focused, from the California breakfast burrito to the smoked Pacific Northwest salmon. And then we get to play here. That's what I'm known for, is food is just another one of my mediums, and this is another outlet for that. Mm-hmm. So Mondays we always do soul food with Blue Mondays. Sometimes we have blues bands like Misty Blues play or things like that. And then Tuesdays, it's always Vietnamese food, and I get to play with my family's recipes.
Still 2 Tuesdays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm known for cooking gluten-free Vietnamese food because my husband Matt has celiac, so everything that I do is very centered around that, from using rice paper instead of egg roll wrappers to sauces and marinades using gluten-free and vegan versions, so it becomes more universal. Mm-hmm. So you have a choice. You can come and get a wild Alaskan, clay pot salmon dish that I make a coconut caramel and savory caramel with it, or you can have a vegan version of that. This week we had shiitakes, fresh shelled peas, jicama, and asparagus from our farm. Mm-hmm. So there's ways for me to play with the palette that I get every week.
How much of your produce are you getting from your farm?
And what's the name of your farm again?
328 North Farm. Right now we're slowly starting to harvest what we can, like lots of mints and herbs, the cilantros. Soon we'll be harvesting arugula and baby kale in the next couple of weeks. But if we can't get it through us, then we try to find local or regional.
So even though you're West Coast influenced, you're East Coast sourced.
Correct. Yeah, certain ingredients and spices obviously come from Vietnam, and our flavors, people don't realize we use a lot of North African spices, but that combination mixed with Vietnamese, we're playing on the Silk Road kind of thing without having to like really define that.
Yeah.
And that to me is very California. It's like my version of the Silk Road.
Talk to us about the name State and why you called it State.
At first it was State. It's off of State Road, but state can have so many connotations and meaning. There's a state of mind, state of being, just you're in a state of wake or whatever it may be. And I felt like that was important to use the name as the logo and a product of what we're trying to produce. It's like we're getting ready to evolve. We tried to continue what the previous place was doing by serving the same hours and almost a similar menu, but our version of that. I think in the last month we pivoted. We're like, it's not us, we're not happy, we're working too much. So we've evolved into going back to what we want to do, which is more about delicious food and experiences. This week, like we had a shiitake mushroom and succotash and grits. A lot of people don't serve grits. We partner with Marchand Mills in South Carolina. They still grow grits on the same islands for generations and centuries. And it's great to partner with them. It's great to play with what they're offering. Dinners on the weekends, we really have fun with like a baked salmon, but we do it our way with garlic greens, and the greens are Chinese broccoli. Just like this constant juxtaposition of flavors and memory. We do a mushroom stroganoff as a vegan version on playing that beef stroganoff. But it's delicious. But if you want beef in it, you can add our smoked brisket that we smoke in-house. There's always options. If you're vegan, we have a grilled eggplant steak, and we made a lemon caper tremouler for that. We want everyone to be accepted here and involved, and I think that's starting to be definitive of our vibe. And we're going to lean into that. We're going to start doing drag brunches starting in June and year-round instead of just a seasonal thing. Like, let's make community here, and that's our vibe, and we want to continue that.
We're about to get into the ramp up your harvest time of year, and restaurants take a lot of time. How do those dovetail together for you just in taking space for yourself? Because that's a lot of time consumption between the farm and this.
Yeah. And any other creative pursuits you might do,
Yes.
like
Right,
installations at Mass
From my
Mocha.
shop
Exactly.
here at Greylock Works as well. You guys walked by my studio
Yeah.
and the shop, and I have a design team that works there. And then on the farm right now, I have 3 people on the farm. And luckily, my farm staff, half of them work here in the restaurant as well. So they're fully understanding. of
Real
what-
farm to table.
It's real farm to table. So they're planting the food that they're going to be cooking with in a couple months.
That's interesting.
That's awesome.
So it's really intentional. And my design team, they have to harvest the flowers they're going to work with for the week. We've mentored our staff members to be like that. It's not just this is what you do, this is what you're capable of. So it's really changing the dynamic of mentorship and work. Work isn't just you're my employee, we're team members. And unless you change that vernacular and that vibe of how a workforce is, then you're constantly going to lose people. We're going to lose people nonetheless, but we want to retain people the best way we know how to. As for time for myself, I haven't made much of that. This restaurant, we've opened this in September, and for 7 months I've been working almost 100-hour weeks until this last couple weeks. We've made some major changes and allowing more time for myself. So, like after this, I'm gonna go back to the farm, and I'm actually gonna sit and read.
Good for you.
Those questions regarding the farm to table and stuff like that, I look at it as everything is an art project for me, and I'm building my mediums to play with. That's why the farm team is now, they're getting ready to plant all the planters that we're bringing out here to harvest from. All of our edible flowers and herbs and things that we cut and use on a daily basis that can just be right outside the back door. That's where management of time is. It's like, I can't wait for someone to bring it from the farm. Why not bring the farm here?
It's great.
So cool.
Can't wait to come back when you're open.
It's neat because it also starts shifting the mindset of your customers too, and what they're expecting to get from the region that they're in and the ecosystem that they're actually a part of.
Yeah. Why can't a restaurant in Venice do it? And why shouldn't we be doing it here in the Berkshires? It shouldn't just be big farm to big restaurant. It could be our little farm to little restaurant as well.
We'll get back to the farm and get back to your book.
I know.
Please go back to your book. You're the busiest person that I think we've ever met.
What's the book?
It's Ocean Vuong's book.
Yay!
Thanks again to Sal Perry, Julia Dixon, Kat Hand, Matt Brogan, Nicole Rizzo, and Tule for taking time out of their days to hang out with us and show us around. On the next Fabulous 413, we head out to meet some of the students who'll benefit from the Play It Forward campaign at STEM Middle Academy, along with Rachel Rivard of the Community Music School. We'll also reconnect with an old friend when Michael Quinlan makes a cameo at the Wine Bunker of State Street Deli Wine and Spirits, plus a phoenix rising from Mama's Marmalade's ashes. So many apostrophes or catastrophes, as you said yesterday. As Splendid Torch joins us for Live Music Friday before you can catch them at the Iron Horse, or, right now as we're listening to them. Monty, how are you feeling?
I'm going to drink tea and have some honey and lemon, and hopefully tomorrow I'll have a voice.
Your voice will rise phoenix-like from the ashes of whatever this is that happened
I'm hoping
to you.
it's allergies.
We're all hoping that it's allergies, but there's medications for that. They help me live an easier life.
Yeah.
Even though if you're out there witnessing the pollen waves, I had no envies. It is the worst.
I think my family will appreciate my being very quiet all night.
Like it's a holiday in your house. I'm Clea Smith.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
Oh my gosh, it's getting worse.
No, I did that on purpose.
You're turning into Harvey Fierstein.
That's better, actually.
We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.
In the city of